Good evening, everyone. Scott and Matt from Underdog Collectibles in Knoxville, Tennessee. Hope you guys are doing well. What's going on, Mike?
Hey, how's it going?
Good, man. We're just going to let everyone trickle in here for just a moment, and then we'll dive in, man. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Did you did you hang around for any of the after summit festivities, the virtual happy hour?
No, I didn't get a chance to do that. That was the time I needed to get back with the family for a little bit and start to spend some time with them, grab dinner and that type of thing. So I didn't hang around any afterwards.
I understand that. I was doing the same thing. We had two baseball games tonight, so I was out doing that as well. It was a pretty good day.
Yeah, I thought so too.
I like the Jordan in the background there. Is that an upper deck? Is that signage? What do you have behind you there?
Yeah, it's like one of the upper deck like wall stickums from the 90s, I guess it was. One of the things I came across in the shop buyout that I did was just a whole bunch of stuff that had been sitting for years, and it was brand new in the original box. And I said, you know what? These don't sell for a ton. I will enjoy this way more on my wall. And so I
Nice.
went ahead and put it up on the wall, and I've been having fun taking a look at it. But yeah, it was a Team USA thing with Jordan, and Chris Mullen was the other one that came in the same kit. And I left the Mullen in the box, but
Okay. I think I'm looking for some stuff like that. I think I told you we're remodeling a house, and I'm gonna have a little. We're calling it the boys' loft for my sons and I, and I'm gonna have some great sports memorabilia, and I'm hoping to find some dream team stuff, but I haven't found that just right item yet to put up in the space.
yeah, and yeah, Dan, Hacksaw Jim Duggan is up on the wall behind me, and
Oh yeah, there he is.
I believe you have seen the sister autograph picture in the shop. So you are welcome to pick that up anytime you want, Dan. $15, I believe, is what I've got on it.
Great, great. Well, hey, guys, thanks for joining. This is a little different. Usually on Tuesday night, we just hop straight into breaking. But Mike, Matt, and I have all been attending virtually the Industry Summit, which is hosted by Beckett and sponsored by industry leaders such as Beckett. It's hosted by Beckett and sponsored by industry leaders such as GTS, Panini, Southern Hobby, Ultra Pro, a number of sponsors. And Mike and I were trading texts today, and there was just some really provocative discussion at the summit about where the hobby's going, what's going on in the hobby. And Mike is, of course, attending as a media member, and I was hoping to steal a few minutes of his time just to bring him on to our usual live break show, just to talk about what's going on in the hobby, what he heard, talk a little bit about what I heard as well, and then we will hop into our regular live breaks here in just a moment. So, thanks for joining us, Mike. Can you tell just a little bit about yourself and Wax Pack Hero for our customers that don't know a lot about you?
Sure, yeah. So I run the blog waxpackhero.com, where my primary focus is talking about combining the hobby and business sides of collecting together. One of the things that I really enjoy about the hobby the most is making it self-sustaining. So buying and selling enough things in order to generate the profits that I use to cover the cost of the things that I add to my personal collection. And I've gradually been ramping that up over time. And with so many new people coming back into the hobby or coming into the hobby for the first time, educating them on how to go about do that. Some of the tips and tricks that you might be able to do to help make the hobby more affordable and more self-sustaining is something that I really enjoy doing. And that's why I started the blog and then ultimately the podcast. And we go from there. Ultimately, part of that journey has now led me to buy out and open up an LCS and be a part of an LCS in our town. And so I've now got a brick and mortar presence in addition to the online sales I was doing. So I've been having a ton of fun with that. And for most of 2020, I've enjoyed having my partnership with Underdog and being able to help share what they're trying to do here and make some affordable products available to people. And so I've been enjoying their support in helping me spread the word and in turn helping spread the word of what they're trying to do.
Well, we really recommend checking out his podcast. I mean, most of Mike's episodes are awesome. Probably the one we were on probably bored some of your listeners to tears, but you had some great ones. I really enjoyed the segment you did this week. I'm a sucker for the limited release, specialty releases of 80s and 90s. I think you were talking about 85 Donruss what is it? Action packed. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah,
Um,
I covered a variety of the oddball sets from Donruss in the 80s today. So the Action All-Stars jumbo cards, the Donruss Champions jumbo cards, the Hall of Fame Heroes cards, as well as the highlights box sets from 85 through 87. So I kind of did a recap of all of those sets on the podcast today to complement the blog posts that I made about them over the course of the last few weeks.
Yeah, we'll definitely check that out, guys. I love those sets. Earlier in the spring, I opened up a box of 87 Donruss opening day, which is one of my favorite specialty sets of the 80s. So, well, Mike, what did you think about the summit? Were you this? I know it was your first one, and of course, attending it virtually is a little different. But what did you think? I heard a lot of optimism, a lot of energy for where the hobby's going.
I think the thing that I've taken away so far through these first couple of days is, I don't know if it's new, but it really solidified for me the fact that the hobby is so broad and the hobby is so wide that there's really a niche for everyone. You know, there's breakers there who are talking about how to grow their online breaking business. There's LCS and brick and mortar shops there talking about that. There are people who focus on certain specialty niche and collectible items that aren't necessarily even card related, but fit in with the broader hobby. And everybody's got their own unique twist to it. There are LCSs who also have breaking components. There's LCSs that I talked to that literally said they do 0 online sales, which blew me away of how they can be succeeding in today's market and do 0 online sales. And you had, every combination in there of people that have different business plans and different business models, and they're all trying to find a way to make it work. And I guess I knew that going into it, but it really solidified for me that how it really can be possible if you focus, if you've got your niche, you find what you're good at, and then you just go after it hard. And that was encouraging for me to hear.
No, it was interesting. I mean, we had hobby shops there that are, I mean, some of them have been around for 40 years. I mean, truly, like you were talking about Burbank, and I mean, there are legends of the industry there. And then you have people there that are truly, they started breaking last week, or they maybe just opened their eBay store. So it's a pretty diverse set of attendees.
I think the other thing with that is, I think it'll be interesting to see how that plays out over time as well, because you see some of the comments, and there's some people who, while I mentioned that they've found things that really work for them, there's others who've made it clear that they like what they do and they're not going to do it any different. And you have other people who are really shouting from the rooftops of, hey, there's opportunity here to succeed, but you have to adapt and you have to be willing to change and evolve with the marketplace and evolve with the customer base. And it was also really clear today that there are some of those people who don't want to change or adapt or evolve, and that may not work out well for them in the next decade to come.
Well, no, I mean, you've inspired us a bit in talking about how to integrate content and your shop, and we're definitely trying to do that here. But it's hard to see a world of where the shop that just does brick and mortar, or just does e-com, or frankly just does breaking. I don't know. You can do it as a hobby. I don't know if there's a place to do it as a business if you're truly a one-dimensional entity or card shop anymore. There was a panel this afternoon, Mike. This is what I was really curious to hear from you and to share with some of our underdogs, is that, there are some people who are saying, well, the hobby's about to pop. We're about to enter an election cycle. Who knows what will happen in the economy post-election, and the hobby's going to disappear. It'll all be done in 30 days. And then we had a panel this afternoon with Josh Luber formerly from StockX, OTIA Sports, and Ken Golden from Golden Auctions, that their predictions for where the hobby was going I mean, they sound all in. They're putting all their chips on the table and encouraging both investors, collectors, and business people like us to go all in. What was your take on that level of optimism about where the hobby could go?
Yes. So to be fair, I only caught about the last 15 minutes of that session because it was going on at the same time as the session that I was co-leading on content creation. So I only caught the tail end of that. But generally, my thought is there is, I think, what they were kind of sharing was there is this market of very high end consumers, collectors, investors. And the market for a lot of those real high end cards is stronger than ever. And they're a little more insulated to some of the economic trends and the economic things that impact many of the rest of us. And so I think what they're trying to say is, there is still a lot of strength in certain segments of the market. And yes, some of the economic uncertainty might impact certain aspects of the market. But as a whole, what they've seen through all of the data that they've got and what we're continuing to hear is that as a whole, the market's as strong as it's ever been for trading cards, both from old customers coming back in, from new customers coming in, from these high-end customers coming in, that there is just a real strength to both the quantity and quote unquote quality of what is in demand right now. And so, yeah, there'll be ups and downs, and it may not be a straight line up and to the right, but there seems to be a lot of strength in the market.
Yeah, yes, that was definitely the message. I mean, they did also have a firm belief that that premium segment pulls along the rest of the hobby. And I think the prediction, I believe it was Ken that was making, was that, hey, we are going to see a modern era card, go for multiple modern era cards go for well over $1 million. And maybe knocking the door of seven figures. Of course, we've already seen. I mean, we've seen the Trout rookie and things like that, and where it's gone. And they predict more of that. It was also interesting to hear from Panini how we're going to see some differences in sets this fall as we think about the impact of COVID lingering into what it means to next year's releases because of access to athletes, getting things signed and things like that.
Yeah, I think that is only going to continue to change and evolve too, and I think, that's part of the reason that we've seen such a rise in the number of different parallels and serial number cards and the quote unquote rainbows that it takes to track down are continuing to grow because the manufacturers are trying to find ways to create value in their products that don't involve a relic or an autograph. And parallels and serial numbers are something that they've come across that seem to have taken hold in the market and driven people to have a desire to have and acquire cards that aren't necessarily just quote unquote traditional hits of autographs and relics. And I think that's good. I'm for one, am not an autograph chaser. I love the base cards. I love base rookies and inserts and those types of things too. So for me personally as a collector, I'm excited to see the popularity or the increasing popularity for some of those base cards and inserts and those types of things in addition to the traditional hits.
I still love the thrill, whether I'm pulling for myself or one for one of our customers. I still love the pull of an auto. But when you look at sales, it's amazing where serial stuff is going. And it definitely looks like a big part of the hobby going forward. Well, guys, I'm going to ask Mike one more question. But before I do, if there's any questions you have for Mike, put them in the chat. Mike is, in my opinion, an expert on how to make your hobby self-sustaining. So if you have any questions about what he heard at the summit or making the hobby self-sustaining, please post those in the chat. Last question for you, Mike. As you think about what allows us, I think it was Ken that said he sees a 6 or 7 year tail in the hobby. It's going to be super strong, if not longer. In your opinion, what is the greatest risk facing the hobby between now and let's say 2025?
For me personally, I think the greatest risk is we've seen such strength over the last year to 2 years, really dating back to the tail end of 2017, that there's been so many people that have bought and seen the stuff that they've bought increase in value. And my fear is that that has happened so much over the last year that people assume that that's going to happen forever. And what we'll see is that people utilize debt to buy a bunch of cards to quote unquote invest in, or overextend themselves for their own collections, with the assumption that it'll be fine because by the time I have to pay for it, I'll be able to sell it for more than I bought it for. And that we'll get into a point where that starts to slow down and doesn't happen, and people over leveraging themselves create panic selling, which drives everything back down. To me, that's what I think the biggest risk is that we have, is that people over leverage themselves with debt to buy in and quote unquote invest in our hobby.
Yeah, and that's a very legitimate risk with as expensive as everything is right now. I think about how challenging it is for us to get product. I mean, this hobby is not for the weak of wallet. It is an expensive hobby, and it can carry some risk too. And I think it's tempting for all of us to want to lean in a bit, especially whether it be prospecting, whether it be on holding wax, etc. And I mean, I think people hear the stories. I mean, you yourself know. You think about stuff that you were buying 2 years ago and what you can sell it for now, or what you can buy stuff today versus and then make turn for a profit is very, very different. I mean, junk wax, which I know you have a lot of,
Yep.
junk wax, aero wax has gone through the roof.
Yeah, 2 years ago in 2017, I was buying multiple cases to open and sell, and I was able to get them at pretty much just above wholesale cost, when I was pre-ordering those. And now I can't touch that as a small scale, person trying to do that type of thing. And so my own personal purchases to resell are almost all old wax, or they are singles and collections that I'm buying as a whole collection and then turning it around to resell it. Brian asked what my best advice is for making the hobby self-sustaining. I cover that all the time on the blog and on the podcast. And so I'd encourage you to check out some of those articles. But my biggest advice for that is to look for the undersung products, those things that people might be overlooking, and things that you can buy super cheap and put in some work and turn around and crank out some sales from those things on sites like Sportlots and ComC and eBay. Start slow and work your way up.
Very good advice. Well, Mike, thanks for joining us. I know it was a long day for you, and you fit us into the end, but we appreciate what you do for the hobby and your content. Guys, I'm going to flash up the name of Mike's site here, Wax Pack Hero Sports Card Minute. We are a sponsor of the podcast. We really encourage you to check him out. Also, I wasn't able to listen to your session today. I'm hopeful that I'm able to do that, and hopefully you'll be able to get that up on your podcast as well, because I'd really like to hear that panel. I think it'd be great for other listeners as well. So,
thanks. Yeah, I appreciate the partnership. It's great to be connected with you.
Yep. And one day, guys, for those of you that play in our weekly DraftKings contest, Mike is also a very legitimate fantasy sports player. So maybe we'll have to rope him into a contest here soon.
I would love it. Yeah, let me know.
We'll do it. Hey, thanks a lot, Mike. Have a great night. Hey, guys, we're going to take down the show for about 2 minutes, and we'll be coming back live. And I believe 2020 Luna. So we'll see you guys in just a couple minutes. Thanks a lot, Mike. Have a great night.
Yep. See you later.